I'm David Hepworth. Thanks for clicking this Word in Your Ear podcast, videocast, thing for which there is no name. Mark Ellen and I have been creating in this line since 2007. And if any of it has met with your approval, then please click to subscribe because it helps. Leave a comment because we like to hear from you, and maybe even consider becoming a Patreon supporter because then, well, you'll be one of us. Visit patreon.com/wordinyour-ear for details.
You're listening to a podcast from The Word.
So, Dave, I have a stat waddy for you.
Good.
And it's linked to the chilling realisation that for the first time in my life, I'm older than the Pope.
Oh, right.
It's awful, isn't it? It's like the whole thing of, oh gosh, policemen look younger these days. Being older than the Pope really is shocking. I never thought that would ever happen, but that's the case.
Pontiffs
so look, here are
like kids nowadays, you know.
I know. So here are 6 musicians from religious orders. 5 of them are real, and one of them's cooked up by me. And you have to spot the holy rolling imposter. Okay? 6 musicians. Right. 5 of them real. Actually, some of them will be quite familiar. Okay. Out of these, you have the Reverend Horton Heat, the Dallas-born psychobilly vendor.
Yeah. You
have Cardinal Rex, high life singer, trumpeter, and band leader from Baguma, Nigeria.
This is very good.
You have Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Oh, yes.
The electric guitar wielding 50s rock and roll godmother.
Yeah.
You have Saint Pepsi, electronic music experimentalist from Farmingville, New York. You have Pope Plastique, the percussionist in the Melbourne punk cabaret fixtures Dragula. And you have Father John Misty, Seattle-based chamber pop provocateur. Those are your 6 candidates. One of them is clearly made up, and well, not necessarily clearly, but is made up. Can you spot the ringer?
Well, obviously, Reverend Horton Heat is a real thing. Sister Rosetta Tharpe is definitely a real thing. I actually saw her.
You saw her?
Yeah. Father John Misty is a real thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to Pope Plastique. I think is a real thing. I'm going to go with Saint Pepsi.
Saint Pepsi. Saint Pepsi is real.
Go what?
Saint Pepsi is an electronic music experimentalist based in Farmingdale, New York. It's not Cardinal Rex either. Cardinal Rex is real. He's a Nigerian high life trumpeter and singer. It is Pope Plastique.
Wow.
Pope Plastique, possibly the third, who I've made up.
Very good.
As work. Indeed have I made up the cabaret band Dragula. I win. Sensational.
Yeah. Very good.
Very, very good.
So, what was it? Lady Gaga played.
Oh, Lady Gaga. Were you following that?
What has she only gone and done now?
I love Lady Gaga. She's fantastic. Well, she played this Copacabana Beach show last week and got an audience of 2.1 million. And I love these. I love these Copacabana stories because, you know, basically it shows you how enormously economically beneficial these huge tours are. You know, it's like when Taylor Swift's tour was going on. Everybody was desperate for Taylor Swift to come into their locale because the amount of money pouring into the vicinity would be incredibly valuable. And what they do now in Rio, they've been doing it for some time actually, haven't they, to bolster the economy, is they put on these free concerts at Cobacabana Beach. And it's such a brilliant gig because, you know, you kind of get the impression, I think a lot of people get the impression that out of the kindness of her heart, Lady Gaga is staging a free concert. I mean, actually, Rio pay for the entire thing. They put on everything and presumably pay a hefty whack to the performers. And you turn up and you get these massive audiences. And it's also a way of calibrating your world status, which is a fiercely competitive thing, and I always think it's very interesting. For example, Lady Gaga got 2.1 million. Madonna only got 1.6 million. The Stones, a paltry 1.5, but Rod Stewart, 3.2 million. Although you have to ask yourself, what kind of an experience are you having watching somebody with an audience of 2.5 million people around you? I really don't know.
Well, I've seen the pictures of they don't just have the normal screens at the side of the stage.
Yeah.
They have screens staged at kind of, mile intervals almost.
That's right.
Stretching all the way back. So if you're right at the back, you're kind of 10 screens away. Probably more.
Yeah.
It made me think a number of things. I've never been to Rio. Sounds like a song. But one of the things must be, presumably, the tide never comes in at Copacabana Beach because it would be logistically impossible. Because they're staging this on the beach. I mean,
it's on the beach.
This is a very long, very flat, very wide beach.
Yeah, it's very, very long. That's the point.
And there can't be many sites anywhere in the world that fit the bill in that way. I was trying to think if it was anywhere in the UK, and I couldn't think of anywhere in the UK where you could get 2 million people in one space.
In one flat space, it's true.
And it's not Blackbush Aerodrome, is it?
No, this is colossal.
And presumably it only works if you're staging it in a place that is sort of a destination in itself, i.e. it's not Blackbush Aerodrome, which nobody in the right mind would go to on a Saturday afternoon unless Bob Dylan was playing there in 1976 or whatever it was. Whereas Copacabana Beach is, let's go to Copacabana Beach and see Lady Gaga. Well, you're not going to enjoy the beach very much because there's going to be 2 million people on it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to see Lady Gaga
Don't bring your swimming things. Don't bring your windbreak and your picnic.
Togs.
Your beach ball, your deck quoits.
Yes,
Sorry, we're trying to play tennis here. What are you doing?
My idea of a nightmare is a kind of is a crowded beach anywhere. I get to the point where I go to. Have you ever been to Calorin Beach in Colonsay in the Western Isles? It's a very incredibly beautiful beach.
Oh yeah, I know it. Yeah,
and you very often get that, and there's literally nobody on it, and it's really long. And you just look on it, you look across, and there's nobody. And after you've been there about an hour, you suddenly start to see a tiny little figure coming to the beach at the other end. And you say to your wife, "Come on, back up, we're going."
This reminds me of our family holidays. The Ellen family camping holidays. Me and my 3 sisters and my mum and dad, we used to go to the Outer Hebrides. They were trying to get away from the crowd. We'd go to these places. I do remember being camping in this enormous farmer's field, and at the other end, another little tiny kind of Austin, Cambridge comes bumping in. Start putting up a tent. My dad turns to me and goes, like Piccadilly Circus around here. Pretty much, come on, we're leaving.
It's very
and that's so British,
It's like, was it the Mike Lee played Nuts in May? You remember that TV film with Alison Steadman and I can't remember the guy. Anyway, the couple went camping in the field and they're enjoying the solitude, and then a guy pulls up on a motorbike and it's immediately spoiled for them.
Yes,
that's such an
other people.
Yes, hell is other people.
Hell is other people.
And so I can't think of anywhere in the UK that would be able to accommodate anything of that nature. I don't know if people have got any ideas. They might like to send them to us.
Suggest them and then put on a concert there.
This is Word in Your Ear, from Aardvark to ZZ Top and back again.
We're often talking about this, the industry appetite for retelling old stories, which obviously has commercial benefit, because if you're going to make a film about Troy or Oppenheimer or Napoleon or Dunkirk or whatever, you're off to a fairly strong start because people know roughly what to expect. But I think this has reached a new depths, actually, in the rock documentary world. Are you following a story about the new Doors movie? It's called Before the End. It's a new documentary. It's been created by the Doors superfan, that's a worrying word when it comes to making films, Jeff Finn, who will examine the evidence of the theories that Jim Morrison may still be alive. including one that revolves around a man called Frank X, who works in maintenance in Syracuse, New York, but some believe is Morrison in disguise. Frank has been noted to share physical similarities with Morrison. It's also believed that he has revealed in the past that he has many of the same interests, including the work of the French poet Baudelaire. Right, that's him. That proves it. We've got our man. This is desperate, isn't it? And also, why? A, this is ludicrous. B, why do people want expired rock stars to be back among us? I mean, is that a good thing?
I was checking in yesterday when I knew we were going to talk about this as to whether Elvis is still being cited. And apparently
he used to be cited every 20 minutes, didn't he?
He apparently is, although not as frequently as...
it used to be Elvis at Brent Cross Shopping Centre, didn't it? Or the Moon or something.
When he'd only been 30 years dead, he was regularly cited. Now that it's longer ago than that, it's rarer to see Elvis walking amongst us. Clearly the whole thing is utterly ludicrous. And why you're so right. Why do people wish these people back into life? I'm not sure if anybody authentically does. It's just the kind of crackpots who want to start a story. It's like if you go back to Paul McCartney, Paul is dead. Nobody ever believed that, did they?
Not for a split second.
Not for a split
They
second.
like the whole folklore about the number plate is if 28. If he was alive, he'd be 28, etc.
But it was all cooked up by some... It generally is. These stories are generally cooked up by DJs in Moose Droppings, Ohio on the midnight shift, trying to think of something to talk about without playing a record, basically. Have you heard the story that Kurt Cobain's still alive and was spotted in Asda or whatever?
It's going to get a reaction, isn't it? People are going to ring in and post and stuff.
And also, I'm sorry to treat this briefly with the respect as if there is due something that might be true. If Jim Morrison had been alive in secret, after his supposed death in 1971, he would have, in round about 1979, he would have thought, I've got to make the most of this. I've got to come out of the cupboard and say, I'm here. I was here all the time.
And I've got a new album.
Absolutely. Can I get a book deal?
My tour dates. Yeah, exactly.
These kind of people don't stay out of the spotlight long, so...
He'd hardly be working in Syracuse, New York, of mumbling away. No. Occasionally singing little extracts from Love Her Madly to himself, hoping not to be recognised. I mean, it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah. So talking bizarre stories that came out in the United States, the Wall Street, well, it's not bizarre really, but it's kind of interesting. Wall Street Journal had a big story, how mom rock became big business. And we've got to go along with the American way of spelling the word, which we all know as mum, don't we? And mum, connotes a different thing, doesn't it? Mom is just slightly different. But anyway.
It is weirdly, isn't it?
It is, oddly.
You kind of have images of kind of hockey moms, isn't it? It's kind of keen, energetic people with 4x4s turning up to pick up their kids from school.
Moms are 37 years old, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mums are not. Mums are 50, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true.
That's just the way it is. But anyway, mom rock, this is, again, talk about a publicity hound. Talk about somebody who's got the world on a string. Brandi Carlile.
She's a genius.
She's a genius at self-publicity, isn't she?
Yeah.
It pops up alongside Elton John, pops up alongside Joni Mitchell, and now she's the kind of leading light in mom rock. And she's having a third annual Mothership Weekend Music Festival held on Mother's Day, which is this week in the United States, whereas it's not in the UK. It was a few weeks ago, wasn't it? I think it was. And it's going to be filled, according to the Wall Street Journal, with moments. Get it?
Yes.
There's loads of agonizing puns coming up here.
Drinking mimosas.
And do Namaste yoga on the beach. And for the Saturday night theme night, they'll be encouraged to dress like a mother. I suppose you take that to mean whatever you want it to mean. But mom rock artists, according to this, include, this is interesting, Indigo Girls, Sheryl Crow, and Paula Cole.
Paul Cole.
Or anyone who once performed at Lilith Fair. You remember?
I do, yes.
They still have Lilith
Sarah
Fair.
McLachlan back in the 90s, wasn't it? That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a long old time ago.
Yeah.
And, which was certainly a big success for a while. I don't know. It's probably running still now. And they contrast mom rock with dad rock. So dad rock indicates Bruce Springsteen is Steely Dan. I wasn't sure about Steely Dan. Bruce Springsteen, certainly. I wasn't entirely convinced about Steely Dan. But anyway.
No, that's not dad rock.
I wouldn't have thought so. But mom rock is as much about community as the music.
Because Brandi, Carlile fans call themselves the Bramley.
Oh, right.
I think they're the Bramley.
Right.
And all of it's about community activity. I actually must say, I love all this. I think it's really good. I think the main difference between mum rock and dad rock is that mum rock is so optimistic and vibrant and community-minded, whereas dad rock is something, the whole notion of dad rock is slightly apologetic, isn't it? I don't really think of it as big acts like Bruce Springsteen stuff. I tend to think of it as being it's Oasis, obviously a huge act, but it's kind of Oasis, it's kind of cast. It's four blokes with guitars, isn't it? And it's for an audience of people who can't dance. They can't dance. They've got no clothes sense at all. Their idea of going out, they pull on a Man City bucket hat and a polo shirt. It's about blokes in trainers, isn't it? And ill-fitting jeans.
Their evening is spoilt if the bitter's off,
Yeah, the bitter's off, or the bitter's too expensive. The bitter's London prices. Then suddenly they're in a really bad mood. And it's really about sort of kind of shambling, slightly kind of hopeless types, just kind of all kind of rubbing along together. Whereas the Brandi Carlile thing is really, really active, isn't it? Yes, it's upbeat, and we've got cookery, we've got brandioke on Saturday night, where everyone sings Carlile songs,
and of course, it being mum rock, it includes children. Obviously, there's tons of children around the place. So the idea is that it's supposed to be safe enough for kids to go running off with other kids and so which is a really good thing. Really good thing.
It's brilliant.
And that is a really good thing. But boy, didn't it remind me once again how everything in popular music is identity focused nowadays.
It is.
This is for moms, And going back to the Lady Gaga on Copacabana Beach, that's all. If you read about that, it's all pride, isn't it? You know what I mean? It all goes along with that particular movement, So the idea of music for everybody seems to have gone away. Music is aimed at particular subsets of the population, you know what I mean, because of youth or age or sexual orientation or, I don't know, ethnicity or all these kind of things.
Yeah, exactly.
And I find it faintly wearying, actually, that side of it.
It's identity music, isn't it? If you're this kind of person, sign up. Very interesting. On that point, I noticed in that interview in the Wall Street Journal that Brandi Carlile talks about the fact that she sets up these things without announcing any of the bill. So she sells the idea of the festival without any of the performers to test whether or not there's enough kind of belief in what she's doing, which is entirely what you're talking about. Because before it's, are you going to go and see so-and-so act? Yes, I am. Well, where are they playing? Let's go there. But now it's do you want to be part of this concept? Oh, by the way, there'll be some performers, but trust us, they'll be up to scratch.
But you see, there's also another interesting thing, presumably going along with this, is that if she goes out and says, okay, we're doing a mom rock weekend or whatever it is, and she'll get on the radio and the TV and so forth talking about it. And it's not a thing that people respond to individually. It's the thing they respond to as a group. So they say, that's a good idea. I'll take the kids and I'll get my mate Jane to come with me and bring her kids as well. You know what I mean? So you're probably bringing along 12 people every time you make a sale.
Yeah.
It's a very different thing. Couldn't be further
and if
away.
there's kids involved, you're spending a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Because they've got to be fed and entertained, and, that stuff doesn't come cheap.
It's really interesting, actually. My niece, who's and she got 3 boys, all teenagers, and they decided that they were going to go as a family, and they'd never done it before. They went to Latitude a couple of years ago, I think, and they came down from Yorkshire and they went to Latitude for the weekend because the boys had always kind of wanted to go to a festival and they didn't really want them going on their own. And so nothing could be further away from the experience of our generation.
Oh, yeah.
The idea that your parents, A, are going to organise it, and B, most importantly, are going to pay for it.
They're going to pay for it. They're going to drive you there and drive you back.
He says, and my niece
bring
said
your toothbrush for you.
She said to me, it was the most expensive weekend we've ever spent in our lives.
Yeah.
Because we walked around the site of Latitude, and were constantly assailed by the smell of food cooking, or I don't know, interesting popcorn or whatever. And what do you know about teenage boys? We've all had teenage boys, Mark. What do you know about teenage boys? They're permanently hungry, aren't they? They're just constantly hungry, and they're
Feed
hungry.
me.
And they
Food me up.
And they prefer food that somebody has to pay for, don't they? Whatever's in the fridge is never quite good enough. They'd like somebody to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm just getting flashes of my eldest son opening the fridge door. I've told this many times, opening the fridge door when he was about 13. He says, "There's no food." I said, "There's loads of food." "There's no food I like." It was brilliant.
Well, she said it just cost them hundreds of pounds. They were just wandering around all afternoon with one boy after another saying, "Can we have a so-and-so?" or whatever, And if one has it, the other 2 want it as well.
I can imagine.
And it's dad's credit card or whatever, just getting worn to a frazzle. So, sorry, how do we get on to that? Oh, we're talking about Mum Rock.
Mum Rock.
Mum Rock.
Good thing. It's brilliant.
Good thing.
I love it.
This is Word in Your Ear, down the rock and roll rabbit hole since 2007.
Sean Kums' trial starts this week. I mean, ignoring, we don't want to have a conversation about the allegations, but I do think it's interesting to see the comparative levels of wealth, really, between the hip-hop stars and the rock star community, which seems quite pronounced to me. If you look, I was just reading stuff about Sean Kums. There's this one image that says, the towering gates of Mr. Kums' estate have flaming torches burning day and night. Now, that is emblematic, isn't it, of a different kind of wealth?
You see, I've got a question to put to you. Did Greg Lake, even in his pomp, did he ever have flaming torches burning day and night over, the gatehouse of his country estate? I don't think
he did. He had a few suits of armour. He had a few little mini mokes he could drive around his lawn.
The signs of old styles, kind of 70s rock star wealth, what we used to consider impressive. As I remember, I think somebody once went and interviewed Chris Squire at Yes. And he had the traditional rock star pile in the country. Probably just looked like servants' quarters to Sean Kums, but it was impressive at the time. And I think he had some props from Yes shows, I don't know, dinosaurs or whatever, out on the lawn, you know what I mean? You just dump them there, kind of thing. And we were quite impressed by that kind of thing back in the 70s. As you say, places with their own bars and with suits of armour. Everybody had to have a suit of armour, didn't they? That was was a sign you'd made it back in those days. Well, it wouldn't impress anybody in the hip-hop community because the amounts of money they make are far great. Immeasurably crazy. Because a lot
Well,
of
Sean Kums, I was looking at some of his business enterprise, and I'm fairly sure that he has one clothing brand alone that at one stage made him over $500 million a year, which is over $10 million a week. I mean, if that's the case, that is just absolutely breathtaking. He bought a string of cannabis retail stores for $185 million in 2022. He bought a $35 million waterfront property that used to belong to Gloria Estefan in Miami, and then bought the $14.5 million house next door. He's got a $2.7 million condo in Miami, a $39 million mansion in Los Angeles, and properties in New York, New Jersey, and Georgia. I mean, it's just staggering, isn't it? I mean, Kanye West as well. Kanye West.
Oh, Kanye.
Just ridiculous.
Well, he bought this enormous, great designer house in Malibu for $57 million.
That's right.
And then decided, like all really wealthy people do this. I don't know if you have this near you in Chiswick, but I always find anywhere in London you live, there's a kind of millionaires row not far away.
Yeah.
And how do you know it's a millionaires row? You know, because
scaffolding everywhere.
The houses are always in the process of being knocked down and rebuilt.
Yeah, huge basements are being put in.
They go in and buy a house, and the first thing they decide is they don't like it. They just want to start again, basically, because it won't do, because it was...
It's got to have my stamp, my identity.
And so Kanye did this, hired a contractor to gut it and build it again, then fell out with the builder. And he's apparently just let it fall into rack and ruin. But he's also, have you spotted this? The story about him suing his dentist.
Oh, I saw that,
For getting him so attached to nitrous oxide that he actually was paying for the installation of tanks of the stuff, Mark.
Yeah.
Tanks of nitrous oxide in his home so he could inhale the stuff at his convenience. This dentist, I was just looking at his website, and he's a man who specializes in crafting perfect smiles for celebrities. His line on his website.
I saw that. Redefining the masculine smile, isn't it?
Oh, crafting smiles for today's legends. So basically,
crafting smiles.
Crafting smiles.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. So it's frankly, the whole thing just it beggars irony, doesn't it? Really.
It is, and it's just interesting because rock stars, it tend to be more. They're not as conspicuous in their wealth, are they? They tend to buy huge property portfolios, and there are cars involved. And unless they're Rod Stewart, they're not actually. If you've got it flaunted, if anything, they try to give the impression that they don't quite have as much money as they do. But the hip hop industry. It's all about people just investing in business and getting a bit richer and richer and richer. The parties, there are parties. I mean, Kanye West was throwing parties that cost, regularly, it cost $1.5 million just for a party. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It's more than I would spend.
This is Word in Your Ear. What are you planning to do with all these records?
Okay, is any other business? And we're joined by Alex Gold. Alex, have you got your Oasis tickets?
I have. Well, I spent a full day on the UK release, and after about 8 hours, the website thought I was a bot, and it kicked me out. And I sort of threw a little internal hissy fit and thought, well, I prefer Blur anyway, and closed the lid. But my lady is American, and she got onto the US release.
Sorry, what did you say then?
My lady.
Is that one back, Mark?
I thought we'd fallen through a wormhole in time and finished up in 1972. My old lady.
My old lady.
Milady.
Oh, my God, it's back. It's back. Go on, carry on.
Anyway, she got on the American release, and in about 20 minutes, she'd got us both tickets to the Rose Bowl in LA. So we're going to go see them on September the 7th.
Now, so you've saved a lot of money there by buying the tickets in the Rose Bowl in Miami. So all you got to do is just fly to America and stay in a hotel and spend a lot of cash, then fly home again. So that's much cheaper than going to see them at Wembley Stadium. Good work.
No, but it's worked out for the best, I think, because I won't be surrounded by English Oasis fans, which
probably
are the
will.
absolute worst. I think it's going to be a much more civilised affair than it would be anywhere in the UK.
God.
So
well, anyway, they're banging the drum for it in the UK, aren't they, Mark? They're.
Well, I love it because every day you get this kind of drip of stories, because it's in the interest of the media and also of Oasis to keep the old balloon in the air. And I just think that's so funny. Some of the recent news stories have been, one was to ensure a smooth reunion, arrangements are in place to keep Liam and Noel Gallagher and their entourages in separate backstage areas at all UK gigs. Whether this is true or not, I have no idea, but that's a story. There was a story about them, how the band were rehearsing in Mildmay Social Club in Stoke Newington. Actually, Noel and Liam did record a little tiny clip there, but they're not rehearsing. And how the neighbours had complained about the noise. They'd supposedly dropped "Hello" from the set list, as it quotes from the Gary Glitter hit. Noel has launched a sunglasses range.
Of course.
Tony McCarroll is not holding his breath a stage appearance. East Coast mainline trains between Edinburgh, Waverley and London's King's Cross have promised a number of surprises on board for fans travelling on their She's Electric train route. Everybody's cashing in here. Yeah, there's a big story about how the two brothers were seen having a meal together, which they then denied, and then the big story about how the band were only going to play for an hour, also denied. I mean, I just love the fact that there's got to be something thrown out every day to keep you aware of the fact that this is happening.
I suppose it's because you have such a long time lag nowadays between the announcement of shows and they're actually taking place.
Yeah.
You kind of need reminding, don't you? It didn't used to be this way. It used to be, so-and-so's playing Wembley in 3 weeks' time. Tickets go on sale next week kind of thing. And people were beside themselves with excitement in those 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because nowadays they've kind of gone off and, changed their jobs and got married and had children, whatever, been on holiday. And there's probably been a pandemic between buying the tickets and them actually going, Yeah. It's difficult. They'll have to remind themselves of Oasis. Are they the ones that sang, Park Life? Have I got that right? Or is that the other lot? So, yeah, they'll all be taking refresher courses. Well, Alex, you'll have to tell us what they're like at was it Long Beach?
The Rose Bowl in LA. Yeah,
the Rose Bowl.
I'll
I
give you a
can't
full match
imagine
report.
Oasis in Los Angeles. It just seems wrong to me.
It does seem it should be. There should be the threat of rain, really. Should there?
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
sort of bruised purple clouds building up behind them.
It should be Manchester everywhere in the world, shouldn't it? The wind and the rain.
You won't look right clutching a can of Red Stripe, will you, when you're in the Stella, when you're in LA? But anyway.
There's somebody when you enter the arena. There's somebody telling you to take that smile off your face. You're not here to enjoy yourself. For crying out loud. So anyway, we were canvassing last week, as ever, for cases that we want to know where people listen to the podcast or take part in the quiz. And Simon Broad apparently only ever listens to the podcast in the bath. It's nowhere else is quite good enough. Well, that's very nice of you to say that, Simon. I think this is following up for something Chris Carroll said, that he was listening to the iPod while having a shower with a phone in something called a Glad bag to keep it dry. Were you aware of this, Alex? Speaking as a man who spends a long time in the shower every morning. It does. Normally, listeners are recording these things, which usually we do first thing in the morning. Mark and I, being elderly gents, are up about 4 in the morning, and
we were actually texting each other at 5:15 this morning. Yes. Unbelievable.
The joke about the Pope.
Yeah.
A very good one, actually. And,
very good.
But then we get in touch with Alex and say, Alex, you ready? He says, I'm just about to hop in the shower. There's always a verb. There's always a little verb attached.
It was nip or pop or hop. Yeah. Popping off and nipping out.
I'm just going to run myself up some vegan porridge or something, Until he gets himself into a fit state, to Faces Public. So you might know what a glad bag is, Alex. Do you?
I have to confess, I've got absolutely no clue what a glad bag is. I've never come across a glad bag before, but I'm very keen to know what one is. If you can
So
furnish me that
presumably something that enables you to take electric devices in under running water safely.
You sound like a high-risk venture to me.
That's a good idea.
Yes, please don't take that.
Yeah.
It's our recommendation on any level. But, we'd like to know where you're listening. Where is your habit to listen to the weekly Word podcast or to take part in our Friday night quiz? And who have we been talking to?
We should mention some of the upcoming podcasts. I think the one about Derek Shulman is out, isn't it? Dennis McNally, the brilliant book about the counterculture, the birth of the hippies. I think our podcast about that is up. We did Dennis Greaves of 9 Below Zero, so that'll be up soon. He was very, very entertaining.
Very good.
But Peter Capaldi, Dave and I talked to Peter Capaldi a couple of days ago. One of the best we have ever done.
We both came off that call and we both said to each other, we just texted each other, that's one of the best we've ever done.
It was breathtaking.
Not that he had anything to do with us at all, he was one of those guests you just wind him up and let him go. And he's absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic. Also really good because if you're an actor and then you were in a group or whatever, as he was in a punk band in the late 70s in Glasgow, and then you go back to making albums 40 years later, that's quite a difficult thing to present. You can come across a little bit precious, or a little bit self-important, a little bit this is me, a little bit I'm so creative. And he was so modest and self-lampooning about it, wasn't he, Dave? But also very sincere when he describes the whole process of going back to writing songs. His friend Dr. Robert of the Blow Monkeys, who I think is a neighbour of his, they've got places out in Spain, had said to him, look, write a song, come in tomorrow and we'll record it. And that whole thing, the thrill he got of writing the song and hearing it recorded, he said, I've got to keep doing this, and being on location at Atlanta for 4 months, making the Suicide Squad, and just a part he could have done in 3 weeks and spending the time trying to make himself, disciplining himself to write songs every day. That was fantastic. But he also tells a story, which we will obviously not give away. So an absolutely extraordinary story about something that happened to him at a gig in Grangemouth in the late 70s, him and the support band, which he said he wanted to get it off his chest. And so you'll be seeing that soon. I think it's absolutely astonishing. It's a confession, isn't it, Dave?
It is.
It's a confession. It's a public apology.
He was terribly good, because this group, was what they call the Dream Boys.
Dream Boys.
And so they just see a standard bunch of students at Glasgow School of Art, form a group and play a bunch of bars and so forth, and then break up. And of course, two of them, him and the drummer Craig Ferguson, go on to be really famous,
really successful.
Nothing to do with music at all, that's quite an unusual circumstance, isn't it? It's as if two members left a group and then went off to be famous footballers or something like that. No, he was a terribly good guy.
He's incredible, and he was really sweet about the idea that so much of his story was about luck. Which is kind of true. He said, 1 minute I'm in a band supporting Altered Images on tour. Bill Forsyth's in the audience, offers me a part in a local hero. 20 minutes later, I'm in a film with Burt Lancaster. Yeah. You just think, that is astonishing, really.
No, it's funny. You look back on his career, it's a long old career, and he says the thing that people very often say, and it's the truest thing about any kind of show business career. No matter how stellar it may appear from the outside, he said, I've had good years and I've had difficult years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's true. You get a year where you get 2 or 3 big movies, and then next year you got a couple of plays that don't open, or whatever.
Yeah.
You've got to suck it up, really. That's the way the world is, But anyway,
terrific.
He was terrific. So that's coming soon. And if you want to get access and early access to everything we do in living color, in fabulous stereo sound, in deep pile hi-fi quality, delivered to your door, untouched by human hand, dawn gathered, dew picked, No, Dew Kissed. Sorry, that I got that
You
right.
kissed, isn't it?
Dawn Pick, Dew Kissed. Yeah, okay. There's one way you can do that, ladies and gentlemen, and that's by becoming a Patreon supporter. And if people wanted to know how to become a Patreon supporter, where would they go, Alex?
They would firstly open their device of their choice and type into their browser www.patreon.com/word-in-your-ear, which will digitally whisk you to our Patreon website, where there are several subscription tiers, all with their own unique benefits, including the possibly the greatest birthday present that he can possibly receive, in the form of Mark and Dave coming to your house digitally and rummaging through your record collection.
On the occasion of your birthday.
On the occasion of your birthday.
Our weekly Friday night quiz.
Yes.
Early and ad-free access, shall I say, to all of our content and much more.
And you also get that very special glow that comes from, walking down the street and having people go, isn't that one of those uniquely virtuous human beings who has increased the sum of happiness for all of us by doing something to keep this long-running show on the road? I thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by The Word.